Hi there, and welcome to Grey Muzzle Geekery for the week of April 1st, April Fool's Day, 2019, and I'm your host, Dusty Red, and with me as always,
Dusty White.
And we'll get right into this week's news.
CableTV.com is looking for candidates to binge watch 20 Marvel movies in just 3 days.
Ooh, I might qualify.
$1,000?
No, I might do it for $1,000. But, all right, there you go, y'all. So we have 82-year-old Shirley Curry, also known as Grandma Skyrim, will become an NPC in the upcoming untitled Elder Scrolls 6. She got famous doing let's plays on YouTube and gained some 600,000 followers or something like that and subscriptions. And so, yeah, she got recognized for being an 82-year-old lady playing Skyrim. I have seen an interview with her a few weeks ago talking to her about why she likes doing it. She likes to stay young and play. And, yeah, super excited. So congratulations to Sherry Curley for being Grandma Skyrim. Also in gaming news, we have Cadence from Crypt of the Necrodancer is back in a newly announced game, Cadence of Hyrule. It's a rhythm-based adventure game set in Hyrule where you play as either Link or Zelda. The release for the Nintendo Switch will be in spring of 2019.
And a bit of an off news, but thought it was newsworthy. A beach in western France keeps having to clean up Garfield phones. For the past 30 years, they figured out it was a long-lost shipping container found crashed against the shore.
Oh, ring, ring, ring. And in music news, today, March 29th, as you can tell when we're recording this, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is underway, and this year's inductees are Def Leppard, Devo, Janet Jackson, John Prince, Kraftwerk, LL Cool J, MC5, Radiohead, Rage Against the Machine, Roxy Music, Rufus featuring Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Stevie Nicks, The Cure, The Zombies, and Ton Rudgren. So congratulations to the inductees for the 2019 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And with that, takes us to the end of the news. Ta-da! So, Dusty, what did you do this weekend?
As you know, because you all listened to the last episode, we recorded on our way to the event.
And we're home alive, yay!
Yeah, worse for wear, but yes. We went to the season opener of Alliance Southern Michigan.
Right. So what was the preparations for this? What was going on? We're just going there for a day. What was it like?
Full weekend immersion.
So from Friday till Sunday morning?
Roughly.
Okay.
At a YMCA camp in Jackson, Michigan.
You make preparations for a full weekend event to know that, hey, we're going to be in costume and we're going to be playing, not just for a couple hours on a Riverwalk, but we had my car loaded to the gills, and it's a little Kia Soul, so there's only so much loading you can do. But there's a Kia Soul loaded to the brim with costume, with shower stuff, with gear, in preparation of being there from Friday night till Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon-ish, and then we do afters.
Yep.
So shower gear, they had showers on site, they had plumbing, which is good. I mean, it's another thing too, is people don't think of, is like it's usually YMCA or a Boy Scout camp or Girl Scout, or what's the other one sometimes, 4-H
camp.
So you have all these campsites that are made to hold a number of people, but more importantly, and I realized this describing this to a coworker, they're often campsites that have a working kitchen.
Yeah.
That's what I've come, I think, at my age now. I'm starting to look and going, does it have a kitchen, or am I having to grill my food? It has a kitchen, then I'm down. Because chances are, if it has a kitchen, it has other amenities. But if it doesn't even have a kitchen, no. I like sushi, but I don't know. So, what was your plan? What were you expecting? What was going on? This is the season opener. This was we're getting underway. We're going to start either old, or finish old stories or begin a new story? Like, does it feel like a TV show? Does it have that feeling?
This weekend specifically for me, for playing as long as I have, season openers can be rough. Season openers are part recaps of the year before, part story starting for the upcoming season for plot lines and things like that, and part everybody knocking off some rust.
And I was just about to ask that what would make it different from like a TV show, which obviously is, hey, season 3 season 3 of Stranger Things is going to be
soon,
July 4th actually, and it's all based on July 4th. Shameless plug, but what's the difference from that? Why is the rust? What's the big difference?
So mostly a lot of LARPs don't run during the winter due to campsites and obviously holidays and things like that. So players and plot people alike have 2 or 3 months to kind of fall out of habits, falling out of fitness levels, falling out of just getting into the feel of playing your LARP character, getting into game as your character. So a lot of Friday night is kind of recapping that, getting back into what you're doing as your character.
I will say this as well, to stop playing devil's advocate for a second. You will see that also in the summertime also feels like that gap, because a lot of times those campsites are unavailable. The Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts are in session, 4-H is using it for their activity. So a lot of times, at least for the Midwest, you'll have a gap in winter where it's cold, because inherent risks of trying to play a game when it's 5 degrees outside.
Right.
But then you also have the flip side of it, of a lot of times there's a summer gap, a 2-3 month summer gap. July, August usually is no-go.
Usually when it's a little rough too hot.
Too hot, but also camp is in session, and so those sites aren't used. So a lot of times, so you are correct. Again, I'll stop playing devil's advocate here and say you are correct in saying that not only is there a gap for winter, but depending where you are, you will actually see 2 gaps. You almost see season A, season B within, or season 1A and season 1B, where you'll have a game play through spring.
Right.
Have a mid-season closer right before summer, and then restart that season, I'm air quoting here, in what?
September.
Yeah, August, September, and then roll until November, and then again take their winter break. So just getting that out for listeners, because we do have people playing in other parts of, some other countries. There's European listeners that might European LARP, or, there's actual fucking castles. But you'll have people that play all year long a little bit, because winter in Texas.
Right.
I've played winter in Texas. Awesome. I love it. Summer in Texas sucks balls though. So.
Okay.
Anyway, continue.
So the event itself, standalone, one of the best season openers that I've been to in quite some time.
What would be one thing off the top of your head that makes it a good season opener of this one particular?
This one particular? Yes. It was a standalone adventure, standalone weekend. And what I mean by that is there was an objective that needed to be done by the kingdom that we are playing in.
Absolutely.
They tasked the adventurers for the weekend to...
They put up a post on the forums of the game forums, and made announcements in the Discord channel and other forms of social media to say, hey, the kingdom is requesting adventurers, but out of game, basically saying, hey, players, the kingdom is asking you guys to do this. This is ideally going to be the objective, but hey, kingdom, go do this.
And out of game, there's a reason for it, because it was a campsite that this particular chapter is not used to running at.
Which brings its own...
Correct.
Costs.
So we are going to a brand new campsite, so in theory a new town in-game, and we have an objective given to us by the kingdom. Not a lot of information given, just go do... It was a haunted, basically left for dead town.
Sure.
And we, as adventurers, were given a task to go investigate and report back. So it ended up being a very good season opener because at the end of it, it still felt like you accomplished something. And a lot of season openers for LARPs tend to... You don't feel like you're getting a sense of accomplishment because it's the fresh, brand new plot lines usually.
You're leaving a lot of cliffhangers.
Yes. Very, very cliffhanger.
We had a. I was trying to lead you in this direction, but we had a conversation in the car, and I think one of the things you said that stuck with me was, I think one of the biggest things about this event that made it so good was for a season opener, it did not feel like a season opener. It felt that, again, we are touting their praises a bit often, and it's almost like embarrassing to a degree because we do say a lot of good things about the chapter specifically, about this franchise specifically. But there's something to be said about this particular game being run by more than one person. The fact that it is a team of owners that are able to handle a lot of the difficulties that come with running a game. It's not just, hey, here's the story, here's a bunch of players, but it is securing a campsite and dealing with situations that happen at the campsite. As you said, there may have been an issue with heat in one cabin at one point.
Or the oven's not working early morning Saturday.
An oven starting a little bit late. It ended up working, but it not working quite out the bat. But these are things that you as an owner have to be mindful of because you are the direct conduit to the camp owners. You are a direct conduit to the out-of-game stuff. But it helps with the team being owners. So you have one guy that's able to deal with the campsite and logistical stuff. Getting players into game is another logistical nightmare. People come in, you have to check in, get your character sheet and everything else. Then you have to write story and write your plot. And then you have to maintain and transport gear and costumes and props. And the game itself being treasure and everything else. Then you have basically to fill your staff. How many NPCs, non-player characters, monsters, and stuff you have running around town, and how many storylines you have, and to make it feel like an immersive world, you want multiple storylines. Because what if there's a dude that doesn't care about the haunted town? Are you prepared to entertain them as well? So there's a lot to it. So again, I know we're touting a lot of their praises here, but the fact that they're not one dude running, or one dude or dudette running everything makes it very clear that they've got their shit together. Like it's a super boon for them.
Absolutely. So what was your aspect, or what was your thought of the weekend?
I mean, I have many thoughts, and depends where you want to go with this, only because I want to almost poke at if you saw any negatives. It's because we can say
it wasn't a negative. It wasn't, and we sort of talked about it while we were there, where there was this gradual. Actually, it wasn't gradual at all. There was a noticeable switch hit, and I don't know if it was done by by PCs.
You're diving right into a topic I was waiting for until a little bit later, but F it. Let's dive right into this. So there's a switch by the players that changed the game from reactive to proactive.
We tend to play on a normal weekend, especially me as my character. I am very proactive. It's what it is something that I enjoy doing as a character. It's a characteristic of Dusty. Being proactive. Of you as well. Being proactive and getting stuff done and getting into the meat of what is happening in the world and figuring out what needs to happen to get things accomplished and get things done. And honestly, get people involved.
Sure.
If I'm not one of those types of players that there is community, there's communities of LARPs out there that you get those players that want to hoard all the information. And I tend to not do that and get it so that the more people I can get involved in the plotline, or more people I can get involved in the story,
is that your responsibility?
Even better.
Is that your responsibility?
It's not my responsibility.
Is it not the responsibility of plot, or maybe the individual himself to do it?
But I would prefer to enjoy playing with the characters that are built around the world.
Okay.
I don't want my only entertainment to come from plot. I want me to have some type of actual control over my own enjoyment. So with that in mind, with controlling your own enjoyment, what were some moments this weekend that you felt like you had that?
For me in particular, I had a huge, and it's funny that you mentioned playing with other people. There was a lot of new players that showed up to this particular weekend. In fact, it brought the average player level way down to a level that made a lot of new players feel capable, coupled with the fact that the new system of Alliance, the
new rule set.
The new rule set there, they're calling it 2.0, has made low-level characters very useful, and high-level characters not so much capped, but just diversified them a little bit. It feels very much like Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, where they went, hey, we have some classes that are more powerful than others. How do we balance this? And rather than going, well, let's tone this down and tone this down, they just went, F it, everybody's super powerful now. But they granted abilities to where low-level characters can do a fair amount of damage now. They don't have as many, like, tricks, so to speak, and like neat little abilities, but
they're effective.
They're you could be a low-level character, roll into that game, and feel effective. To the point of I had a couple new players specifically talk to me and say that they felt useful. They felt that they're able to contribute, that they're able to do things, which, and this goes outside of LARP. If you've played any role-playing game, any kind of game where you come in at a lower level compared to your friends, even Minecraft, you come in bare bones and all your friends are in diamond gear and stuff, there's a level of disconnect that starts to happen where you feel, well, I'm never going to catch up.
Right.
I'm never going to get as good
I'm
as
just
they
a
are.
liability.
Well, that's the worst that could happen. That I feel I'm going to get left behind, or I feel that I'm a liability, or I feel I can't do something. And so it's fun to see new players, and that's one of my big things, of seeing new players come in and feel not only that they can be effective, but the mindset that they are effective boosts their confidence in play and their elevation of play. Where if you come in thinking, well, I'm so much low level, you're almost starting yourself at a negative. Mm-hmm. Of going, I'm so low level, it's not going to count, nobody's going to notice. Where here it's like, every sword that we had there mattered. Every spell that somebody had was super useful. Any defenses, any body that was in, everybody had a place. And even at super low level, the game allowed you to become useful. But B, what I'm starting to see now, because we are both newer to Alliance.
To the rule set, or newer to the game Alliance.
Right. We are newer international players. But we switched over to the dark side, so to speak. But we started playing Alliance, and with their new rule set, even us as veterans who have obviously some out-of-game skill. I know how to fight.
Right.
You know how to be a caster, offensively, defensively. You know how to identify situations. But that, coupled with the new rule set, also allowed me to build my character, not just, here's your fighter, he does damage. Here's your rogue, he does damage from behind. Here's your healer, he fixes things.
Starting to talk like Mathis.
The ogre. That's a story for later. But instead of having these very stereotypical tropes, fighter swing damage, rogue does more damage. Like, you're able to have characters.
You almost handicap yourself if you don't streamline yourself. And a lot of
I disagree.
No, not now.
Oh, no.
I'm talking about with the original rule set.
with the other, some of the other rule sets, and not just the LARPs are familiar with, but just a lot of other games as well. You do handicap yourself. You handicap yourself if you do not streamline. If you are not fighter guy with sword and shield,
right?
Or if you're not rogue guy with, very specific skills to make you do damage. Everybody's MMO'd at some point. Like, we all know, what your min-max is. Like, this is how you do is min-max. For Alliance 2.0, and again, I can sing praises all day, and I feel like I'm totally cowtailed into them. Excuse me. I definitely I am in love with the system. I love the fact that it's different than what we're used to. But outside of that, new shiny toy. Because there's some of that.
Absolutely.
There's definitely, hey, this is new and shiny. I'm excited to play with this toy. But as I'm playing with the toy, I'm realizing that I genuinely enjoy it. That I genuinely enjoy diversity. And I'm seeing 5 different fighters
do 5 completely different sets of things.
Be completely different. And what's more exciting is see those 5 different fighter types also role play their character into that class a little bit better. You have a guy who prides himself as being a defender. He defends the weak and the innocent, and he works with the Healers Guild, and he is known. We're talking about Ardos, obviously. Right. But he's very much a defender type character. But that's also his role play. He gets into
that, yeah, like absolutely.
When you're talking to people, like what's our casualties going to be like? How can we minimize loss? How can we deal with things? Whereas then you have other characters who are also fighters that are like, how can I kill this thing as fast as possible?
I sat at a table with 3 of those people specifically this past weekend and kind of got nervous, but also knew I was probably in the safest place possible.
Elaborate.
They're all murder happy hobos.
The murder hobo. But so to me, being able to lean on your character stats, which is weird because like a lot of role players like to pride themselves. Stats don't mean anything. We don't need stats. We could play the game, and that's fine. We can, but you could still build your character with those stats in mind. If you're playing a defensive-minded character, having a game that allows you to have defensive capabilities reinforces that I am this guy.
Right.
If you're a healer that cures like statuses, like again, playing for anybody that's playing any game that has sleep and poison effect and drain effects and paralyzing and like any of those effects, and being a person that could heal that compared to a healer that's just healing straight up hit points. Yeah. Like I've got all the hit point curing ever.
But if you get paralyzed, you're sitting there for 5 minutes, right?
So you could.
It's utility versus healing.
But in here, they definitely make that push. So to answer your original question from 5 minutes ago,
Tangent King.
I am the king of tangents, and I apologize. Not really. Sorry, not sorry. Hashtag. I do like seeing so many new players and old players being able to, they're getting to get to know the new rules. Mm-hmm. It's a change for everybody. But B, getting into those character roles that are not defined by their class, but reinforced by it.
Okay.
And as someone that likes to look at all sides of that likes to look and go, hey, I can be a rogue and have these abilities. Again, going from last week's question that we had of like what gets you into a mindset. How do you prepare for a game beforehand?
Now this is part of your preparation.
Well, one of the questions was asked was like, you have a mantra.
Okay.
And I think of Judy Hopps now playing in my head of saying clever fox.
Okay.
And so I repeat that, clever fox. How do I be clever? Like just going up and hitting the guy.
Not clever.
Is not terribly clever. It's effective. And if players that play that way, that's fine. There's builds and there's ways to do that. But how can I outsmart my opponents? Not outsmart the plot team. Like, I'm playing with the plot team. That's another thing that people have a tendency of forgetting, is that
everyone is there to have fun, including the plot team. They're there to entertain you, but they're also there to entertain themselves. And a good plot team has fun entertaining you.
Should we skip ahead to the
oh no.
To the 3 of us on an adventure, on a little module?
Okay, all right.
Having fun.
Having fun. Having a character, her name is Naomi.
She's basically a dragon.
She's a black dragon, but she basically hired us. Didn't even hire us. Just asked us.
Asked us to go deal with the situation.
And we, knowing her, we're like, sure, we will help in whatever way possible.
This goes back into, she is a higher level character.
Yes.
We are lower level characters. But there's enough of a out-of-game experience that we know how to handle situations, and enough of game mechanics that allowed us to be effective, that allowed us to do things that maybe in some other games you would be just...
We would be a liability.
We'd be outclassed.
She asked us to go help with some investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 3 against 4?
It was the 3 of us versus 4 NPCs. However, what was particularly funny about this is one of the plot people was marshalling the module. That meant that he was not interacting, but he was to oversee everything, to keep an eye on stats, to keep an eye on the interaction, because you generally don't want people going crazy off script.
Yes.
You don't want somebody being like, oh, I give up, here's all the answers and stuff. So you have a module marshal. And a lot of times they will also play as monsters and stuff and kind of do both play and marshal.
At the
but
same
here,
time.
this specific one wanted to marshal specifically to... we're not sure of if I was doing it to make sure that the story goes in a particular path, because from what I could tell, it's a information sensitive or it's a very sensitive storyline.
Correct.
So it seems like it's key that individual, that mod marshal or the plot person pays attention to what's going on. However, there is a thing where sometimes it's okay to go off script. So what happened?
We happened upon a caravan, a quote-unquote broken caravan that was waiting for a blacksmith to come help the quote-unquote broken caravan. Naomi had received word that there was essentially bandits robbing caravans. So we went to investigate, and the roleplay that ensued from a group of 4 NPCs, bandits being, in theory, hired by someone to stand guard, quote unquote, ended up with one of them changing sides.
Well, that I was actually going to leave as the kicker, but yeah. But do you remember why he said he changed sides?
That Naomi was going to eat him?
Well, and this is where we go into the roleplay aspect of what is so good about it. Of after all was said and done, like it was 3 against 4, and as we got into the confrontation, we managed to convince one of them to supposedly
he got fired, and then we convinced him.
He got fired, wink, wink, because he got fired and then was whispered to ambush us.
Right.
But going a little off script, he took it as, nah, man, they're she's a dragon.
Yeah.
She's a dragon. She's going to eat me. She's going to fly at me. So he played it that way. And, hilarity ensued to the point of the plot marshal, was in the back, and every now and then you just heard, bah!
I can hear his voice now. I can hear it in my head.
So, it's, again, leaving some details out and whatnot. But it's funny to see that it could have just been a situation where we rolled in, we fought, and the end. Yes.
No story, no development. We went and accomplished our goal. We fought, we killed them, move on.
Done.
But because of the types of characters that we play, we do try to negotiate. We do try to talk to people. Not everybody you meet in adventuring towns are murder hobos. So it did play out with one of my highlights of the weekend. The other one I'm sure we will talk about shortly. However, it did end up being a very, very interesting and different type of module or adventure that I thought was going to happen. I thought we were going to get rolled. We were going to die.
Sure.
I was ready to get to that point.
I was anticipating getting killed too.
It worked out well.
Well, and it worked out because again, there's the role play behind it, and the NPC went a little off script, but just talking to him afterwards, he said to him it made sense. He put himself in the mind of Octavius. Octavian, yes. His name was Octavian, and he was a kind of a gambling addict, it seemed like. And this is, again, this guy was handed a card, like a stat card, and said, hey, you're a bandit guard.
Build your character.
Build your stats. So
Yep.
this is what you're capable of doing, and you're basically working with this guy to guard the caravan.
Uh-huh.
But this NPC, or this person, why am I saying this person? So Lewis, calling him out, is a fantastic role player. I've seen him play many different roles, and he does a great job. Took this stat card and built a character. And then from that character started developing a personality behind it and went, what would I do? What should I do? What would happen in the situation? And as things came down, he looked and went, there's 3 guys that are about to kill me. If I can not get killed, I'm okay with that. Like, are they any... I'm sure he set it up in his head, like, hey, if they could pay me better, if they could do whatever else to set the situation right. And it turned into a huge... Like, for just it being, the 7 of us?
Right.
It turned into this crazy situation that then escalated on the way back. Because now we've dealt with this long situation of talking to this guy of like, okay, hey, one of the bandits ran away. The other one died.
Yep.
One of them was basically taken in for interrogation.
There we go.
There we go. And then... Questioned. And then the last one's like, I'm following. Okay. So we get into town, and now all of a sudden we need one of the local nobility to properly deal with the situation, because
we need some legitimacy given to this adventure.
We need a legitimate noble to be like,
pass
hey,
judgment.
We just rolled up on these bandits and beat them up. We cool?
But we told them we were with you.
Yeah, we told them we're with you. Can you do it? And now the character in question goes by the name of
Sir Mathis.
Sir Mathis, a knight of the kingdom, who is an elf. A rather, I don't want to say pompous, but rather elf of upstanding. He is a gentleman, and he is
a scholar.
He is a scholar, and he is well spoke, and he is here to represent
the kingdom.
The kingdom. And so we go to get him, and out from the door
we get Mathis, the high ogre.
An ogre guy. Well, he isn't full high ogre. He
thinks he's a high ogre.
Because he just finished a ritual that went awry, and now his mind is not in the right place.
So it was very much a knock, knock, knock. Can we speak to Sir Mathis? Not right now, guys. No, really. We need you, Sir Mathis. All right, donkey. Get off my lawn. Get out of my swamp. It was very...
Yeah, Shrek kicks the door down and goes, you want me to break his thumbs?
I swear I heard Benny Hill yakety sack music in my head.
Oh, I don't have flagged. Yeah, it was... And it just was a situation that toppled into another
It was the
shit
cherry
show.
On the top of whatever hilarity had ensued less than 10 minutes before that.
Oh, it was so good. So what other... As I'm eating the cherry in my old-fashioned, sorry.
So what other highlights did I experience that weekend?
For you. Because you mentioned that was one of my highlights, was obviously running into new players and such. Well, something that you saw.
So I will segue into some of the other questions that we did have last weekend that we didn't get into. But
I have a feeling are answered with this weekend.
With this happened to be answered. It surpassed what I might have answered
in the past.
The weekend before this. Describe your most immersed moment, which was asked by Chad Schaefer via Gmail. And Chad Schaefer is one of the owners of Alliance South Michigan.
Yes.
He happened to surpass my most immersed moment with something that happened this weekend. The long and the short of it basically was we stumbled onto this haunted area, and the haunted area was being haunted by a specific spirit that had been hung by the townspeople. Hanged.
Meat
Sorry.
is hung.
People are hanged.
The only difference between hung and hanged is about 3.5 minutes.
Okay, so 100 years ago, past before where we were,
Right.
The spirit of a Sar, or a cat-like creature,
A catkin humanoid,
was
a thundercat,
hanged at a very specific tree.
Right.
this spirit was haunting this land because items of his his bloodline had been taken.
Right. He was wrongly accused and hanged.
Correct. So I want to say maybe 11:30 midnight. We get 2 of the 3 items, and we have an idea to try and go appease the spirit with 2 of the 3 items.
Right.
So essentially, the town, minus maybe 1 or 2 players, went out to this tree that the plot team had decorated prior to setup. With like tarps and
because it's still,
it looked like a dead tree.
It's still winter-ish time.
True.
Like, this is in Michigan, so you're not going to see many leaves on a tree in March in Michigan.
Correct.
So it was definitely pretty threadbare. Tree itself looked a little worse for wear, but then like stuff was tied to it. Was it like black?
I want to say black fabric or black trash bags, but basically
stuff,
to make it look more haunted.
Yeah, definitely. If you were in the woods and you looked upon this tree, it was some Blair Witch shit going on.
Very much so. So, and they had taken some of the logs around the area and made it into a nature type circle around the tree itself.
Right. And
myself, Naomi, and then the rest of the town went out to the tree to appease the spirit. And Naomi and I were a little, I want to say 5 or 6 paces away from the town as Mathis in his high ogre voice is talking and telling the town why we are there.
Gotta do a thing, guys.
And Naomi is up against this tree as I am kneeling next to it. And we are hearing what we think is the wind amongst the dead tree leaves on the ground.
I am at this point about 5 feet from you, and I'm having difficulty hearing in general because a lot of people are shuffling their feet. But I'm seeing your reaction, and I start to play off it because there's one of the few times I see you sit almost like bolt, like upright.
Straight up.
What happened?
So we are standing there, and as Mathis is talking, Naomi and I hear whispers. And this isn't something that whispers or hearing somebody talk that's not there, and I'm using air quotes, is pretty typical at a LARP.
Right. How's that represented?
It's usually represented by a plot person out of game with a white headband.
Right. So you'll approach an area with a guy or a girl, but a guy with a white headband on to signify that they're not there. They're out of game.
Yes,
they're there for some logistical reason.
Right. So
there's a point where immersion is broken because you're standing by an area next to you're standing to a dead tree, air quote dead tree, with a guy in a headband.
But you're talking to the tree, or you're in the area and the tree is talking to you, but the guy in
the white headband is standing right there.
Correct.
Right.
So,
however,
this is no there's no immersion breaking here.
There's no guy in a white headband nearby.
No, not at all.
Okay.
So Naomi and I are standing there, and Mathis is talking about why we're there, and we're here to appease and talk to the spirit. And all of a sudden, what we think is the wind is words of "get out." And I'm looking around, looking back at it now, I'm definitely looking around, trying to find the guy in the white headband.
And I, from my point of view, see more white of your eyes. Like, your eyes widen, and I see you, like, pigeon head turning left and right.
I am searching every nook and crevice that I can see, and it is pitch black. Again, it is midnight in a threadbare or tree bare forest, and all I can see is the silhouettes of the people that are less than an arm length away from me.
And it's near a full moon, too.
So that's part of why this is immersion is completely immersive for me, is because I move. Because I feel like this voice is right behind me. And Kristen is now, like, goosebumps, skin, neck on, like, hairs on the back of my neck are standing straight, and we hear get out. We hear get out. give it back, and then it sounds like a chopping tree. And I look at Naomi and I'm like, do you hear that? As I'm clawing into Mathis's arm.
Yep.
And everybody is starting to everybody's starting to get quiet because they don't know what's going on.
There's that, and again, they're all looking for that immersion break. They're almost looking for, where's the noise coming from? Why are they hearing something that we can't? Because they're a few feet behind. I'm a little bit away. I did not hear much. But it wasn't until, like, I heard give it back. Because the k sound in back caught my attention. It carried. I heard give it. I heard like something back. And I sat up. Like, I meerkatted. Yes. I straight up meerkatted. I sat up and started. And then, again, I will admit, I did the immersion break too. I started looking around like, who's saying that? Where's that voice coming from? And I'm still hearing voices next to a tree decorated in black where a cat person was hung 100 years prior.
Right.
My brain left the planet Earth, and I am in this world going, I'm gonna die.
Pretty much. So I get up and I move maybe 30 feet, not even that, maybe 15 feet to the other side of the tree, thinking, okay, whatever it is no longer now behind me. Let me move to this other side of the tree. As I do that, I am now facing the rest of the town as the full moon is cresting the horizon, and all the rest of the town is now kneeling because of the words and the brevity of the situation. And I still hear, give it back. Get out. I could have sworn, and to this day, and 20 years from now, I will swear to it, that I felt the hot breath on the back of my neck.
I summed it up when I told the person running it later, like, I thought my ears popped due to the simultaneous pressure change of everybody's butts puckering at once. Like, it was by far one of the coolest
moments
and creepiest fucking things that I have ever seen. And obviously, so ruin the magic a little bit.
Sure.
The plot person was hiding in the woods some 20 feet back or so, enough to hear us. Because obviously we're calling out to a spirit, we're beseeching. But he had set up a bunch of Bluetooth stuff to where anticipating that, it has to be. He can correct me if I'm wrong. But I have a feeling that it was in anticipation of that looking for the headband. You're looking for that, okay, where's the guy talking to us?
Right.
And as soon as you don't see that, you start to question, am I really hearing that? I heard get out, but is it just my imagination?
Right.
And you are not the only person to have said that to me. Easily 4 or 5 other people of the, 20
You're
that were
going
there.
off of sleep deprived. You're going sleep deprived.
I mean, Naomi even said, she was just like, I haven't slept all night. I can't tell if I'm hearing things or if this is someone setting up something, but this is messing with my head a bit.
And we kind of talked about it on our way home that weekend. Sure. And it is one of the senses that I don't think up until this group of individuals, these plot people, it's one of those senses that I don't think I've ever experienced at a LARP. And it's the sound. It's so simple when you think about it, as a sense of sound being as immersive as it could possibly be. You have sight, you have feeling.
We talked about, and this is another thing too, we talked about, like, obviously sight is like you have your 5 senses.
Right.
So whatever one you could mess with will mess with somebody's head. However, the sense of sight is difficult to mess with because there's always the out-of-gamey type stuff that's tied to it. You mentioned before when you were running plot at Nero Highborn that you had a fellow plot person that left the scent, strawberry smell
Correct.
on certain items. Like had a little, natural oil?
Natural oil, yeah.
So use some, strawberry natural oils and used it to mark a thing, basically.
Try to do memory recall.
Right. So, I mean, it basically Pavlovian training somebody through scent of going, hey, I smell this thing, I recognize this thing, could I identify this thing? So it's fantastic. That's exactly what we're talking about too, is what other senses can you mess with? How crazy would it be to go to a location and have something to eat that triggers a memory or triggers a thing? To mess with the sense of sound. Like we mess with sight all the time.
Right.
Like to a point of we almost have to close off our sense of sight to allow imagination to come in. A dude that's 6 feet tall, wearing green face paint and a green tabard or a green shirt, and says he's a goblin. That's a sense of sight that you have to alter. You have to play with your imagination. But when you could mess with the sense of sound and hearing to a point of questioning your own damn sanity.
I definitely did.
Super clever. And that goes back to, can you mess with touch? Can you mess with smell? Can you mess with taste? Like, I'm very curious to see, and I wouldn't be surprised if I might be giving away secrets already if these guys haven't already thought of something to start messing with those other senses, which gives you an idea of the immersion and idea of...
This is the second time they've done this now. The punchy rocks in a hot box.
Oh, that's still one of my favorite stories to use for otherworldly stories at conventions.
Right.
When we tell stories of our LARP adventures.
But we come out and there's
Should I do the quick version of that?
Sure.
All right. So this is another Alliance South Michigan story that I call... Well, our friends was tasked to name an encounter as short as possible. And he came up with the term, punchy rocks in a sweaty box. Obviously, it's, August, October?
Somewhere around
September,
there.
October.
October.
It's late fall in Michigan where it's hot outside.
It's more humid.
But it's, not hot. It's warm, but it's super humid because it's constantly raining.
Right.
That's pretty much my experience with Michigan.
Face paint and rain.
Face paint and rain. So it's super humid. You're sweating just being outside. And the town gets split into higher levels and lower levels. They're still experimenting with the new rule system. So they're starting to figure out that gap between high level and low level really doesn't matter. But this is still early in experimentation. So it's high level and low level split up. High level are outside. Lower level are inside, trying to collect pieces to stick it to this obelisk, this rock thing, to make it glow. It helps that one of the plot people is a electrical engineer.
Yep.
And so I, as an electrician myself, I identify a lot of the
practices,
the skills and the practices that are employed, and I giggle with glee because I'm surprised it's taken so long in many cases for these things to be utilized, for LEDs to be lit up when you put a thing in a spot. It's just it's batteries, wire, and some metal, and all of a sudden, bing, you get an LED light to glow because you put a thing in a thing. Anyway. Magic. So it's fantastic to see... Hey, I drank all of my bourbon. Leave me alone. It's fantastic to see these other skills employed. So when you do that, it does enhance the scene. We had that actually on this last weekend as well. But I'll skip ahead to the punchy rocks. So we're inside this room, a bunch of low levels, just beating up on these rocky creatures that are trying to steal the pieces that we're putting in this obelisk. And that is our world right now. We're inside of a cabin that's tarped off to be like a mini maze, and we're just getting our butts kicked by these two guys just appearing, just respawning and fighting us. And they'd beat us up and they'd drop us quick and they'd disappear and then they'd reappear and they'd fight. And we're talking 3 hours.
Rinse, wash, repeat for 3 hours.
Just completely just getting lather, rinse, repeat.
It's a grinder.
It's a typical grade A grinder mod. And then I go for a breather So I go to step outside. And as I step outside, I hear Fey music, like carnival music playing from where I don't know. Later I found out they had a Bluetooth speaker hidden in a tree log.
Right.
But it's carnival music playing. And there's a bunch of people standing like...
Music box playing.
Music box
more
playing.
like
There you
music
go.
box.
A music box playing, carnival music playing. You have our group funneled in a convexed perimeter around the building that we're in to protect us. And at that point, there's a satyr, a Fey king, played by Chris, who has been working out. So he's out there shirtless. He's in shorts, or not shorts, he's in pants, shirtless, and he's got like a beard. So he's definitely got the Kratos look going on. He's got head hair, though, so it works.
Yeah.
But he's out there, and he's like holding a goblet in the air, screaming out, "Bring me more wine." Shoot him and like charm somebody to shoot another person in the butt with an arrow. And everybody's unsure of what's going on. And I just see mass like hysteria. Like basically it's a fever dream going on.
Oh, absolutely.
And I step outside to catch my breath, hear creepy music, and see shirtless dude in a beard yelling at people to bring me more wine. And while you're at it, shoot him in the butt with an arrow. And I go, nope. I'm going back inside to get beat up by rocks.
So this was the second time this Splat team has chosen very specifically to do the light thing and do contact, magics and put this piece here and do things.
You get an effect.
An effect. Cause and effect.
You do A and B, right.
And it does so much more for me specifically for immersion that I don't think I've encountered before, other than one plot person devoted to me to tell a story and to give me emotions and tie a story of myself to another NPC, which works as for immersion as well. But this is just a level of immersion on a grander scale.
Sure. It's hard to go out of character. Like, here's an example. They could have put a piece of PVC, like white PVC, into the ground and said, use your imagination.
Here's a tree.
Here's a pillar.
Right.
Or here's a stone tablet.
Okay, got it.
And then when you put the pieces on the ground or whatever next to this pillar, I'm going to shout out, this white pillar glows white. And then you point to the other one when they do it and you go, the pillar glows blue. And then you go to the third one and go, the pillar glows green. You can do that. I understand that every game has a capability and the budget and whatnot to do it. There's a level of imagination that's used and whatnot. However, I guess there's a level of at what point do you pay and at what point do you expect a grander level of immersion. And flip it to the plot team for whatever game that you may run for. Are you willing to reach in your own pocket a bit, or are you willing to reach into whatever to make it happen? I know I personally, as a DM, have bought miniatures for my table.
Right.
Like, when they're like, hey, I'm going to play a halfling bard, and I've all of a sudden pull out a halfling bard miniature and say, here, this is for you.
Right.
Like, you're already running the game. But to go that extra step retains that interest, like, that's not forgotten. You don't forget something like that.
Everybody's imagination can only get you so far. It helps when you have something that grounds you or expands those senses to bring you full circle.
It's not necessary, but good teams, good players, just being passionate. And I think that's another term that I've heard from a lot of the newer players. I'm in a weird spot. I think we're both. We're both in a very weird spot with Alliance because we're veteran players. There's no amount of experience points that could get away from having out-of-game skill.
Right.
Like, I consider myself, 50% and up, like top 50% in terms of fighting skill.
Right.
I toot my own horn a little bit. But if you're going to put 100 players out there, I'm pretty sure I will come out in the top 50% in terms of fighting. I have a capability of fighting. So my physical attributes allow me to do things that some other new fighters are not capable of doing.
They don't have the muscle memory.
They don't have the muscle memory. They don't, and even just the memory of counting your hit points and knowing how the game works. Oh, if player A does this and player B does this, I could react or counteract or whatnot. Well, again, I'll toot my own horn a little bit. That is something that 20 years of playing a game gets you familiar with. Regardless of the game, there's still, even in, Dragareer or Amtgard? Daggereer, that's it. I say Dragger. Daggereer. Daggereer. Oh my goodness. I have not played Dragareer.
You got me.
I said it. It counts. But I'm thinking Amtgard.
Yes.
Like, I am not an Amtgard player. However, I have played Amtgard a time or two, and I have definitely excelled new Amtgard players because of my familiarity with buffer weapons.
Right.
With these foam weapons. We had a new player that had a sword, and I was yelling, not new player, she's been around for a little while.
She's usually a dedicated NPC.
Right, but I was telling her to hit me.
Right.
And like, as she's trying to hit me with her sword, I'm like, no, hit me. And I actually learned this.
Don't be scared.
Well, I learned this from, honestly, I learned this from Travis. Like, he's like, one of the first things you do is when you want to teach a new player, you say, hit me. And let them hit you to get that timidness out of them. Because it is a little nerve-wracking to hit somebody. In most places, it's illegal to hit somebody with a thing. So there's a level of trust that it's foam padded or latex with foam or whatever.
You're
trust
not going to hurt someone.
Yeah, you're not going to, unless you're full-on Jose Canseco
batting
baseball
average.
sweat. You know, is that a Jose Canseco bat? Please don't tell me you paid for that. Sorry. Ninja Turtle reference. The rabbit hole. Long story. Like, let the player, let the NPC, or let the person know that they could swing with the weapon and not be so timid about it.
Right.
Hit me. I'm not going to fall over. Well, anyway, tangenting. I know, I'm tangent king over here. You get them to understand that they can hit with the weapon.
So we'll kind of gear the next week's episode away from LARP, since we have been LARPed pretty heavy.
We'll let this episode run a tad long.
Okay.
I want to go into an overall summed up soundbite review of the event.
Okay.
What do you have? If you could sum it up in a paragraph to be like, boom, why you should come or should avoid Alliance South Michigan.
You should come to Alliance South Michigan to be a part of a community of LARPers that are passionate about the game and are passionate about continuing to make other people feel wanted and continue a story that everyone has the ability to affect.
I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. I could really only piggyback. Now you stolen a lot of the words out of my mouth here. So we'll go positive.
Okay.
Come to Alliance South Michigan. Check their schedule out. They have a very passionate team. And it's funny we use the term passionate. And we're going to beat the dead horse using the term passionate. Because they care about their players. They care about their game. They have made it a point to make people feel welcome, to ensure that any of the like socially awkward or people who are nervous about doing this, because it's daunting. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I'm going to pack up my car and I'm going to disappear for a weekend in the woods with these people I don't know, to be a positive experience. It's like going to camp but with foam. Like it's collaborative storytelling.
Yep.
Like, if you want to be part of a story and help tell a story, it's a way to go. If you want to, like me, I like to get my stick on. I like to fight. I'm a little bit of a stick jock, I'll admit it. But there's also people that will accommodate that. Again,
challenge you.
Hearing Chad, who asked a question and is a co-owner, came up to me. He's like, dude, I like fighting with you. Like, it's fun to fight with them because we'll turn up our aggression, or we'll turn up our capabilities against each other to fight each other, to make it challenging, to make it to get the adventure out of it. And obviously he's skilled enough to know that if he's just playing a goblin, like he's not going to be like, super ninja shinobi goblin, here I go, I'm going to win. But at the same time, be able to play to... I don't see them playing down to players. No. I think even to a new player, they will make sure to give that player a challenge and an enjoyable challenge. They've gotten really good at finding buttons to push without pushing them over the ledge. To be like, hey, hit me, come back. Well, engage with me.
I will counter that with even one of the brand new players, and shout out to Mike, Moon and Mike and Moon.
Oh my goodness,
they were fantastic. They came in looking the part by not like baller. Killing it the part wise, and I was blown away by by not only their costuming but their ability to show up, role play, get into the game, and really play their characters. But one of the players is used to fighting in a different game where theatrics are more important and screaming and being rageful, but never getting to the point where he's unsafe fighter.
Right.
But even the plot team said, hey, we love your aggression. We love that you get into it. This is a different type of fighting style. Sure. Let's work with that and make it so that it's enjoyable for both parts. Right. Because they feel bad because he is coming at it with a different fighting style.
It's interesting you bring that up. He definitely comes from it's a different game style that uses almost like Amtgard, where you hit them once or twice and they fall over
the monster falls down.
So all you need to do is land a good shot. I think maybe that's one of the downsides to our game. And that's, I'm sure, a question that we teased about. I mean, we could bring it up. Like, I made fun of, I'm not a fan of latex weaponry.
Right.
I am only because I think they look absolutely beautiful. However, I do not think they're made for our style of game. And I say that whereas if you're playing a game where I hit you in the arm and you lose your arm, or I hit you in the chest and you die, that is perfect for that style, like that kind of weapon where you're not breaking down. Yeah, the wear and tear, bad. The wear and tear on weapons in our style of games, between Nero, between even Amtgard can go through, but they use 1-inch foam. But a lot of those style of hit point based combat games, Dungeons and Dragons style games, where it's like, I have 50 hit points, and you swing 2 points of damage per swing, you need to hit the guy 25 times.
Right.
That does a lot of damage to a lot of weapons. And a lot of these like latex weapons and stuff sometimes aren't
Not to mention there's players out there or monsters that come in that have real armor on, and you're not just hitting flesh on flesh.
You're hitting chain minimum.
You're hitting chain or hard leather armor. So I agree. Latex looks great, and it gives you a level of immersion. If we're all standing there and you taking a photo, and we're all
they look beautiful for sure.
We all are sporting latex weapons. It looks great, but physically hitting somebody 25 times with latex weapon in the cold 90% of the time
is you're dealing with Midwest.
It gets to these bruises. It stings. Let's not talk about bruises, but.
Thanks, Mathis, for that one.
Anyway, so you have lots of... It looks great, but it doesn't always play well to the game.
So you have a player who comes from another game where their focus is latex weapon and stuff. So he's fighting a little bit slower and a little bit more of an impactful, like, brah, and I hit you. It's awesome. It looks great. The only downside is that by the time he hits the dude once or twice, he's been hit 20 other times by other players. So it's a good challenge because it does bring a lot to the game, and if that style of game could be mixed or meshed with the style that we also play with a hit point based system, then he's gonna run away with like best character awards day in and day out. Like between the passion between, and it's funny seeing, that's one of my favorites, is seeing people out of costume. Like we had a dark elf. For anybody's familiar, I mean dark elves, dark skin, using dropping the V word.
Underdark.
But using gray makeup, because another thing that a lot of games have been doing to get in jive with just modern times. Like, it's 2019. There's no reason why somebody should be in all black.
Right.
Or why potions like love, which basically force another player to fall in love with the appropriate sex, to exist.
Right.
So stuff like that being out of the game is fantastic. But you have, a guy who's in all gray with his white hair, and he's playing a dark elf, and he's playing surly and stuff. And I walk past him, like past the showers, and no joke, he looks at me and goes, "Oh, you look different too." And it took me a second to go, "Oh, hey!" and give him a big hug. And I'm like, "What's going on, man?" So it's funny seeing people out of costume or out of character once, like, Dude was wearing a wig.
Yeah.
The barbarian.
I didn't realize
it was
that.
a wig too. Like, he had the big poofy hair, or big, like, not quite dreadlocks, but like big hair. And no, it's a wig or something. I'm looking. I'm just like, oh, you do not look like you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And kind of to piggyback on the original tangent that we started, the new adventurers or new players to this game have brought some fresh blood and some fresh perspective. Hands down, one of my best interactions for newer players this weekend was Zoran, someone that we brought from First Squared, or came because we talked about otherworldly stories. He resurrected, he died. Yep. And we had a moment as a role play moment of bringing his spirit back to the game, or bringing the spirit back to
it's like a respawn point.
Yeah, basically. Respawn point. And being able to be a character like I am as a leader, being able to look at him and go, "You've been integral to this weekend's adventure. Absolutely. I appreciate everything you did. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you lessen the blow of having your spirit weekend." And it's moments like that I like being able to interact with newer characters and give them that positive. Everybody remembers their first death. Yep. Everybody remembers their first death. He had it the first weekend he came out, and he got to have a moment, and that he was integral to the plot. He was important to be there, and then he still had this character that in theory is higher level, or somebody that, like, having the CEO of the company come and give you that moment or whatever, and he has that moment of going, "No, that was my first death, and that means something to me."
They do, all in all, and I guess that's, like, again, we've been LARPing for a while. Between the two of us, it's pushing 40 years of experience of playing these games. And, again, I really feel that my nose can't get any browner, like, at this point. I'm pretty confident I know what the entire South Michigan staff is eating for dinner. We promise
we'll talk about this the same when we go to play Traverse City in May. We promise.
I mean, I'm expected to. I'm very curious to see how their plot team does everything else too. Like, I will give them a fair shake. I mean, we could go a little bit of negatives for a couple minutes if you want. Is there any negatives that you've seen from the weekend?
Honestly, the only negative was getting the story, getting to that hard switch where it went from reactive to proactive.
And that is a rough thing to do, because again, you kind of dance that line of how do you get players who were told, "Hey, go to this town and investigate." Okay, so the players go to the town and investigate and come up with nothing under initial investigation, and then get pinned in an area into the main, like, tavern building.
Right.
Because they're constantly being attacked. Because it's Friday night at midnight, and you don't know it, because it's a new campsite.
We don't know where we're going.
We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're looking for. So there is that, I don't want to say negative, but there is that hindrance of, okay, we're all here. We are completely reactive to what the plot throws at us. And if the plot team is waiting for a proactive move, for one of the players to say, "We're going to go find the dead tree where the Tsar was hanged,"
at that point, we didn't even know.
We didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
Like, I scouted a little bit, but I was too afraid to go too far, because then I'm dead in the woods.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty quick, but it's not so much a negative, but it is a case of a very delicate line between how do you get your players to switch on their own from, "Hey, we're here, we're investigating," to hey, we didn't find anything, what's the next step, to oh, we have the next step, let's go, without making it seem cheesy or without shoehorning them or railroading down a specific set of tracks to say you need to do this. One of my negatives, and we talked about it already, and the plot team already knows, so I'm not dropping any surprises, was that it becomes kind of an age-old argument of do you do PC talk at the beginning of the game.
That's right. Okay.
I agree with what they did, where they went, hey, we're going to do a PC talk ahead of time and just send the text file to everybody.
Right.
Which was good, and I offered to do a voiceover or something, like if they send me the PC talk and the event teaser, the game teaser, that I will do it on the podcast or on a separate recording so that players can listen to it on the way to an event. Because I will admit, I didn't read a thing.
Bad player.
I'm a bad player. I didn't read a thing. Luckily, you were sitting in passenger seat and was able to read to me, so I was able to get a better idea of what was going on for the weekend.
Right.
I admit I was bad. I've been working, and it's not an excuse, but it is what it is. So they opted to not do the PC talk, which is interesting this particular weekend because it is the season opener.
Right.
It has a lot of new players to the game.
Right.
Which makes it difficult to explain rules that are vital to the game, like hold, or like community building of, hey...
These are our new faces. These are the people to talk to.
Hey, old players, these are the 6 new players that may have questions. Hey, new players, these are the old players who you could talk to, and these are the 5 guys who run the game who you can also talk to. So... Again, they know it's no surprise. It's they know that was a oopsie on their part. I see what they were trying to do. They were trying to set up.
I think it was an aesthetic decision.
They're trying to set up. Hey, you're in a new campsite. You don't know where you're going. Like they wanted to ride that confusion to be like, good luck. You don't know where you are. You don't know what you're doing. Constructive criticism is a case of. Set your players up at NPC camp or in the parking lot or set them up as best as you can and just give them a bullet point presentation. Hey, here's your new players. Hey, here's who they are. Hey, here's this. Hey, here's the people we can, like, who we are. Here's your 5 plot people or your staff that you can come to at any point in time. You cool? 3, 2, 1, now go and go get beat up by monsters. Something like that is good to consider because, again, it's hard to do a PC talk before the game starts because in our case we are driving 4 hours across state lines.
Right. And you have to get into character with your makeup.
It takes me about 45 minutes.
Yeah. And that's on a good day if we've prepped our bag to be like, this is the 6 things I need, and it's all on top, and I don't have to go digging.
I've definitely done events where I came home from one weekend, barely washed half my clothes, and turned around and went to the event the next weekend. And it was a shit show trying to find where's my costume. I'm running around with one blue sock and one black sock. I'm colorblind. They're both black to me. And like 3 different things of makeup where I'm like, well, one of them says berry and one of them says red, and I'm like 2 shades of reddish berry something and smell like a cheap hooker, and just like, because the makeup's scented.
Oh, that's right.
So, like, and it turns into an hour and a half of where's my makeup brush? Do you have any makeup wedges? My favorite is when I like my nose drips.
Oh, yeah.
And it meshes up the black of my whiskers, and now I got like a streak down my nose, and I'm like, well, gotta redo it all. Oh. Anyway, so yeah, we've been pretty LARP heavy the last couple weeks.
Right.
Obviously, we're going to continue to touch on LARP on occasion because it is one of our major passions. However, I don't want this to come into Grey Muzzle LARPery.
Right.
We do want to get into
regular geek
culture.
Geek
things. And I say that too because we did get an email that'll tie into a question where we have Brew Guy 85 his name's Adam. He asked us a couple questions. One of them is if we're going to do an episode on amateur radio. I do not know much about amateur radio. However, due to my affiliation in the furry community, I can easily talk to and interview somebody
Okay.
with that. So that could be something on the docket if it's interest. There's a lot of radio, from my experience from conventions. There's a lot of ham radio users and radio users in general, which is really cool. It's a community in of itself.
Right.
So you want to break down geek communities going from there. He also asked what are our thoughts on the new Commodore 64 reproductions.
Okay.
Like,
that's straight up our alley, nostalgic-wise.
That is a question that I think we're definitely going to tackle next week. That will be dancing on just nostalgia. Because looking at that question is a straight up honest question, but it is so deep.
Right.
Especially with a lot of the Atari system remakes coming out and the SNES and the Nintendo. Yeah.
Yep.
All of these systems being remade to dance into that nostalgia vein. Which then asks the real question. How many of those nostalgic games were good? And how many of these nostalgic games were absolute horseshit that made you go, oh, I remember E.T. And then you play it and go, oh, God, I remember E.T.
As somebody who's recently watched a couple of levels of Mega Man, I totally am looking forward to this topic.
Oh, F-Cut Man. F him right in the face. Though Metal Man had one of the best songs for his level. From Mega Man 2.
Next week.
Metal Man 2, yeah. So, but I think that'll definitely touch into that, because we could go into a lot of that nostalgia topic, and we could go into a lot of that stuff. And then that almost brings us up into what will be coming up soon, the Motor City Furry Con.
Yep.
A convention out in Detroit.
Yep. That
we may do a on-the-road cast, or if we're feeling particularly feisty / intoxicated, do a
in hotel room
cast, which could be dangerous because they're also known for being an 18+ convention, meaning that they also are 21+.
Right.
And they serve alcohol.
Yes, they do.
They have a number of breweries that...
Cideries.
Well, cideries, breweries, and they have mead that they have for sponsor level and above, which we happen to be. I will also be working at that convention, doing a couple panels and entertaining as usual. To,
anybody in the area, come check us out.
Yeah, anybody in the area, come to Motor City FurryCon on April 12th.
Yes.
The weekend of April 12th.
Yep.
And we'll be doing some stuff there. We'll obviously be advertising for Alliance South Michigan and for our own podcast, and to hopefully get some more listeners and some more questions and comments and feedback. And we're here for you guys, man. We appreciate everybody that's been listening and giving us your time. We are not unaware of what is my old saying of time is one of the few non-renewable resources that we have. So every minute you guys spend with us, we super appreciate.
Absolutely.
And we know that time can be spent in other ways. So we want to give you guys the best show as possible. So any suggestions, concerns, comments, questions, whatever you guys got, we want to do this for you because, hey, I like talking and drinking bourbon. How about you, Dusty?
Always.
All right. So I think that'll do it for this week. And next week we'll go into more nostalgia and any other questions going into retro gaming.
Interesting.
This would be fun. So, as always, I am Dusty Red.
I am Dusty White.
And as I always say, we may know a little bit more, but we sure as hell don't know any better. Thank you for listening to another episode of Grey Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White. You can send your questions and comments to us at greymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at greymuzzlegeek. We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout. A special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or purchase it directly from his Bandcamp page.